Okay, welcome back to this new video. Now in this video, as promised last class, that we will be actually covering the various organisms in which you have one single cell, or it might be few cells, or it might be too much of cells, or you can say some specific term for that type of organism. About that, and also we'll be talking about some non-living components, non-living entities inside the cell which are present, and simultaneously we'll be talking about the organelles, their location, structure as well as function. Now let me proceed with the simplest part, that is about the number of cells and what sort of terminology we use for them, the various examples of that case. Now when we talk about actually an organism in which there is only one single cell, that sort of organism is called unicellular. Okay, it is called unicellular. Now the best example for this is your bacterial cell, or you can simply say bacteria, or a bacterium actually is the singular, so you can use the word bacterium or a bacterial cell. Okay, that one. Apart from that, you can also write amoeba. So these are the most prominent common examples which you can take for if you are ever asked about some unicellular organism, you have to write about it. You can write give the example of this thing. Now suppose there are only few cells, okay, means that's just a cluster of cells and still they've become one single organism. They are considered as one single organism. In that case, you can take the example of Volvox and Spirogyra. Okay, now actually Volvox and Spirogyra, they belong to the family Algae. Okay, they belong to that particular category. And Volvox, you can say spherical structure is spherical. Inside it, the cells will be just scattered. Okay, that's why we have used the term few celled organisms. And as far as we talk about the Spirogyra, the basic structure, even I was talking about Spirogyra when we were talking about the shape of the cell, in which the cell is elongated, long, filamentous. So exactly taking that description, if I draw it, it exactly looks something like this. Done? So this entire thing goes on like this, and this is your long filamentous Spirogyra, and this is one single cell. All are arranged in one row, and hence they form the long filamentous structure. And in one filament, you will never find just one single cell. It will be a chain of cells. Okay, and they actually belong to the category of algae. Okay, now next, last but not the least, we humans, we have almost become the apex of everything, and that's why the multicellulars, as I said, it includes many. Okay, even your mango, any tree, any plant, any fruit at random you take, they are multicellular, no doubt. We humans, we are the highest peak of the animal kingdom, in which you will find the multicellulars. Okay, so whenever you are asked about multicellulars, the best example you can give yourself, and even at random you can write the name of any animal you like. Okay, so we may not elaborate much because these are some basic things about the number of the cells, about how you categorize those organisms into this. Now talking about some more about the components in the cytoplasm. Now when I talk about the components of cytoplasm, I can say it includes the living as well as the non-living components. Now living components means actually the cell organelles, they constitute the living components in the cytoplasm, which you will find in the cytoplasm of a living cell. But when I talk about the non-living components, they exist. It's not that without them the cell will die eventually, but still they exist. Okay, we will not go very much into detail about what exactly, if there is no such specific function, not in greater magnitude, then why do they exist? This comes as the foremost question, but these things will be covered in another video session, not in this one. So the non-living components, we use the term for them cell inclusions, and in fact we call them the ergastic bodies. Now in the previous video I had used this term ergastic to describe the condition about the Brownian motion, okay, in which everything is suspended, and if anything that adds to that suspension as a completely colloidal state, or the Brownian motion, anything that adds to the Brownian motion, it's just because of this ergastic bodies. Fine. Now these are the living components, these are the non-living components. Now when we talk about the living components, non-living components, we are clear they are cell inclusions, we call them ergastic bodies. Now coming to the living components. Now in living components, that is the cell organelles, we will be actually addressing each and every cell organelle, and the pattern in which we will be actually covering this part, it goes something like this: the location, the structure, as well as the functions. Okay, now these are the three categories in which every cell organelle has to be addressed while you are going through cytology, because everything has its own value, everything has its own location, and you can say it has its own specific function. Now when we talk about the location, you can say at random that any cell organelle you take, it is the cytoplasm, no doubt. Yes, it is the cytoplasm, but from the exam point of view, now I'm mostly targeting the ICSE and the CBSE students. Now you people, whenever you will be asked about the location and function, generally this type of question comes, and definitely for that case you need to at least be very focused that whenever you're writing about the location, you have to write the cytoplasm of the plant cell or animal cell or just cell. Now how will you differentiate that, where to write the plant cell, where to write the animal cell, and just use the word normal cell? Now for example, cell organelles which are specific just only and only to the plant cell, for example the cell wall, and you can also write about the centrioles. Now cell wall, it is specific only to the plant cell. Centrioles or centrosome, it is specific only to the animal cells. So over there you have to mention that this thing is found in the cytoplasm of the plant cell. The centrioles, it is found in the cytoplasm of the animal cell. So this has to be very specific. Now talking about the structure and the functions. Now structure, just a minimum whereabouts like what the structure is, because a much detail about the structure is covered by the time you reach your +2, and by the time you reach much higher levels like your graduation and post-graduation, you get into the deeper aspects of those things. So over here this will be just a quick cursory view so that it becomes very easy for you to capture everything within a short span of time. Now coming back to the cell organelles, I'll proceed to cell organelles. Now the first and foremost thing that I would like to target in cell organelles is the most important thing, the gate. And whenever we talk about a house, the gate is always targeted. Why? Because the gate adds beauty. It is the entrance. So exactly, it has to be secured also. If it adds beauty, then definitely it has to be well secured also. So when we talk about the gates of the cell, then we talk about cell membrane. Okay. Now cell membrane, when I talk about the composition, it is the outer structurally or location wise, if you talk, you can say that it is the outermost membrane of both plant and animal cell. It is found in both plant and animal cells. Now when we talk about the structure or the composition, it is actually made up of lipids and proteins. Lipids are actually the terms, the biochemical term that has been used for the fats, and for generally we say that lipids and proteins, the combination is actually addressed as lipoproteins. Okay, this combination is actually addressed as the lipoproteins. And when we talk about the structure in a much detailed manner, little bit detailed, not much, you can say it is actually a lipid bilayer in which the proteins are just floating like icebergs. Okay, so that's why we call it a lipid bilayer. Why? I will just show you. Now generally when we talk about the lipid structure, a lipid, this part in particular is your hydrophilic head part, and this one is your hydrophobic tail part. Now what happens always every time the hydrophobic, they tend to stay away from the water, but they tend to stay together to another hydrophobic tail of another lipid molecule. So generally they tend to stay in a structural format, something similar to this, and this structure is actually called the micelle. Okay, the structure which I have drawn, it is actually the micelle. Now why I'm talking about this micelle and the structure in which you can actually see the tendency of the hydrophobic tails towards each other while the hydrophilic ends towards the water. Exact same type of thing you will see in the bilayer. Bilayer means two layers. Please focus. Bilayer means two layers. Now what are the two layers? How they are arranged? This is the exact format in which you find a lipid bilayer to be arranged. Now this whole thing is scattered over here. Okay, that's how. Now I'm not drawing the full thing because I have to save time for myself. So this is the exact pattern in which it goes. Two layers of lipids, so you can see the lipid bilayer. And that too, in which type it has been arranged? The hydrophilic parts, they are arranged in such a manner that the hydrophilic end is one is towards the cytoplasm and the other is towards the extracellular fluid, while the hydrophobic is in between. In this lipid bilayer, the proteins are just scattered, and these proteins are something very specific. They are actually, you can say, those proteins are actually the gates which allow, first of all, maintain the stability of the cell membrane, and secondly, these are the ones which act like gates to allow only very specific substances or selected substance to get into it, and that's why it is called selectively permeable. Permeable means something that will allow substances to get through it, but it is selectively permeable. No doubt it is permeable, but it is selectively permeable, means allows only selected substance to get into it. That's why cell membrane has a very deep significance when it comes to the protection and the maintaining of the concentration of the entire cytoplasm. Okay, so selectively permeable, and on top of that, since it is selectively permeable, or we use the term semi-permeable. Thank God I remember this. They are also known as the semi-permeable cell membrane. Now, if I talk about this function, I have already said that no matter they protect it, they maintain the concentration of the cytoplasm because they allow not every substance but only selected substance to pass through it, to get into it, and to go out accordingly. It has to be again a selective substance. So that's how they regulate and maintain everything. They maintain the shape also, and simultaneously you can say, since it's the outermost thing, it separates or differentiates the internal environment from the external environment. That's all about your plasma membrane or the cell membrane. Now immediately moving to the next part or to another structure organelle, that is your cell wall. Okay, now cell wall, again I say, it is present only in the plant cells. Okay, it is present only in the plant cells. Now if I talk about a plant cell, if this is your cell membrane, just a very thin layer of cellulose you find outside lying to it, that is your cell wall. Now let me tell you, generally in the plant cell, the cell wall is actually made up of the cellulose, while in cells like your bacterial cell, when we talk about a bacterial cell, they also have cell walls, but difference is it is not made up of cellulose. It is made of a substance called peptidoglycan. Okay, it is made up of the substance called peptidoglycan. Now this is the reason, or you can say this is one of the important questions that generally is asked to many people, that if there is cell wall in bacterial cell, then how that cell wall is different from that of the plant cell. So that is the difference. That is about the composition. This one, the bacterial cell is made up of, the cell wall is made up of the peptidoglycan, while the plant cell wall, it is made up of your cellulose. Now talking about some little more extra about the cell wall. Cell wall, since it is made up of your cellulose, a carbohydrate, or you can say a polysaccharide to be very specific, it provides rigidity to the plant cell. Rigidity to plant cell, no doubt. And another question about it is living or non-living. Now when we talk about cell membrane, it is a living entity. But when we talk about cell wall, it is a non-living entity. Okay. Third aspect, cell wall is freely permeable. It is freely permeable to water, and it is, you can say, highly hydrophilic. This is the normal tendency of almost all the carbohydrates. They are hydrophilic, and also shows, also just because of this feature, you can say it is very much prone to this aspect, that is imbibition. Imbibition means by surface contact or direct contact it absorbs the water. So this is the feature of the plant cell wall. First of all, it provides rigidity. It's a non-living entity found only in the plant cells, and the next part, that is, it is freely permeable and highly hydrophilic. That's why it shows, the plants, they generally show imbibition procedure. Okay, so this was about your cell wall. Now coming back to another part, that is, we have talked enough about cytoplasm, we have talked about cell membrane, we have talked about cell wall. Now coming to something which is very important, like the transportation. Transportation always is considered very important, because something that is produced, it has to reach the target place. So that target place can take up further activities, whatever is required, whatever is basic necessity, it requires something, some raw materials. So that raw material is actually transported from one place to another place. So in the cell also this transport mechanism exists, and this is actually called your endoplasmic reticulum. अभी ये जो एंडोप्लाज्मिक रेटिकुलम है, व्हाट एग्जैक्टली डज इट डू? एंडोप्लाज्मिक रेटिकुलम को बहुत बार हम लोग ER भी लिखते हैं शॉर्ट फॉर्म में. इतना लंबा नाम है, लिखेगा कौन इतना सारा? सो जस्ट फॉर द सेक ऑफ एक्सप्लेनेशन आई एम यूजिंग द वर्ड ER. Now ER, this ER actually it starts from the nucleus, you can say. Nucleus से शुरू हुआ and it spreads throughout the cytoplasm. It might reach the end of the cell membrane and might not also. Okay. So this endoplasmic reticulum, अगर यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं, there is a connection between the nucleus and the through the endoplasmic reticulum it is connected to the exterior environment. Okay, cell membrane. Now meanwhile, whatever thing is produced inside the nucleus, जैसे कि mRNA, that has to be transported out into the cytoplasm for more amount of your, you can say, transcription हो गया अंदर. अभी यहाँ पे बाहर आएगा, then that will be again translated. The more proteins will be synthesized. So for that sake, this endoplasmic reticulum plays a very important role. Now this endoplasmic reticulum provides a whole, since it is scattered in the cytoplasm, it provides a great deal of you can say cytoskeletal, it plays as the role of providing the support of this being a cytoskeletal structure. You can say it forms a framework by the virtue of which the cell has its own entity. Okay, it acts like a framework. Now coming to the endoplasmic reticulum types, it is of two types. One is your smooth endoplasmic reticulum, I'm writing it down, it's better. Another one is your rough endoplasmic reticulum. Rough. Now what is the smooth and rough all about? Rough means there is there something present on top of it that gives it a roughy appearance? Yes. If you think like that, then it's yes. What is that rough thing, or which makes it the endoplasmic reticulum completely rough? It is the presence of ribosomes. These ribosomes, again, they are another type of cell organelles. They have their own functions, but let me specify over here. Now these ribosomes, they actually come in certain parts of the endoplasmic reticulum. They come studded to the endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, they're studded to the walls. Now ribosomes, they are actually responsible. You can find these ribosomes scattered in the cytoplasm also. You might find them studded in the endoplasmic reticulum. You can find them either way. And what is the basic function of this ribosome? Protein synthesis. Synthesis of proteins. Now proteins, this word has been used in every sphere. Means generally you talk about something else, ultimately you get into a point where you come across this word proteins. Okay. Now same way over here, you can see these ribosomes, they synthesize proteins. If they synthesize proteins, they have to be transported through the endoplasmic reticulum to some target place. Okay, that's why this is the role of the ribosomes that are studded to the endoplasmic reticulum, preparing this rough endoplasmic reticulum. Now when we talk about the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, they are just associated with the transportation of certain substances. I hope you are able to understand. what is this smooth endoplasmic reticulum, what is this rough endoplasmic reticulum, and what is the significance of the ribosomes. Now once I have started the topic of the ribosomes, let me just continue with that. Now ribosomes actually, they form the basis of the differentiation of the cells also. Now actually when we talk about the ribosomes can always are comprised of a bigger unit and a smaller unit. Okay, they are comprised of a bigger unit and a smaller unit when we observe it closely, and each of it has a specific sedimentation unit. Okay, sedimentation coefficient means if it is ultracentrifuged, ultracentrifuged means there is no effect of gravity over there. When there is ultracentrifugation of this entire cell content, these ribosomes, they come and settle at a particular point. Okay, and that point or that particular level at which it is settling down, it is measured by Sedberg unit. Okay, we just use capital S to denote it. Now depending upon the type of cell, the ribosomes will also be different, no doubt. So if it is a, you can say, eukaryotic cell, or if it is a prokaryotic cell. Okay, now in case of eukaryotic cell, the ribosomes are completely different. In case of prokaryotic cells, they are again completely different. Okay, it is 70S, 80S. That means what? The 80S means at this particular unit, the ribosomes came and stuck over there while they were undergoing the process of ultracentrifugation. When we talk about the prokaryotic cell, 70S means they again came and stopped over here at this particular 70S unit. Okay, so this is what the meaning of the S means. Okay, when you come to +2, when we will be covering this ribosomes in the next few lessons also, we'll be talking about in great detail. Now you might ask me the question also that what is this eukaryotic cell, what is this prokaryotic cell? Actually we will be covering this when we talk about the nucleus. Okay, over there it comes a major important thing. Okay, so this was your ribosomes. They are responsible for producing proteins. That's why they are also called the food factory of the cell. Food factory of the cell. So this is how we talk about the ribosomes. Now moving to the next part or the next type of organelle, that is basically your, you can say, mitochondria. Okay, very important. It's a mitochondria. Now mitochondria, they are actually a little complex creatures responsible for cell respiration. They are responsible for the cell respiration, and these organelles, they have double walls. Okay, one outer membrane and one inner membrane, and this inner membrane is actually thrown into folds. This inner membrane is thrown into folds. This is the outer membrane, I am writing OM for this. Inner membrane, I am writing IM for this. And these folds, they are actually called cristae. They are called cristae. Each of these folds or this inner wall, you can say, they are actually studded with tennis racket like structures. Tennis racket like structures. You can see a head with a tail. Even we observe the same type of structure in case of your lipids. Okay, so when we talk about this, what are these structures? They are actually oxysomes, or we say call it as the F1 F0 particles. F1 F0 particles. Now what is the function of this thing? Okay, the function of this thing is to synthesize ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate, it actually acts like the energy currency of the cell, means each ATP will be actually utilized to carry out some more metabolic activities. That's why that is called the energy currency of the cell. Now talking about the next part, that is this base. This is actually called your matrix. This entire fluid or the space, empty space, is called the matrix. Now when we talk about cell respiration takes place, cellular respiration, it takes place in two phases. One is your glycolysis, another one is your Krebs cycle. the glycolysis, it actually takes part in the cytoplasm, takes place in the cytoplasm. Whereas the Krebs cycle, once the glycolysis product, that is the pyruvate, is formed, the pyruvate enters into the matrix, and over here the Krebs cycle takes place until and unless ATP is synthesized in sufficient amount. Okay, so that's why mitochondria is called the site of cellular respiration. I hope this part helps you about knowing a great deal about mitochondria, and for this particular thing, that is the cell respiration and production of ATP, which is the fuel for every metabolic activity, it is called the powerhouse of the cell. The powerhouse of the cell. Done? So I hope this part wasn't that difficult, understanding the mitochondria, its structure. But if I go on to explain much more detail about how this ATP is produced and the chemiosmotic theory, the ATP synthetase structure, the enzymes involved, about great deal of your glycolysis and Krebs cycle, then it's going to take me few more classes. Okay, for now this part is, I feel it is enough. Okay, now coming to this next part, that is one more structure, that is the lysosomes. The lysosomes, they are actually called suicide bags. Now why are they called suicide bags? Now they actually contain a lot of digestive enzymes. Digestive enzymes means completely degrade and finish it off. Digestive enzymes, and you can say they are acidic in nature, and you can say they have 40 different types of enzymes in them. And when do they are actually surrounded by a membrane which protects the enzymes from getting out into the cytoplasm, because once the enzymes move out, the entire cell is completely disintegrated, lost. Okay, so that's why we say that lysosomes are the suicide bags, and they actually help in the intracellular digestion. Anytime the cell realizes that there is some sort of problem in the cell, in the working, and the cell is actually going to create a mess in the entire system, it has to die. In that condition, intracellular digestion takes place. It kills itself. Okay, that's why they are referred to as the suicide bags. And in fact, now the question comes, if these enzymes are stored, these digestive enzymes are stored in these lysosomes, where did they come from? Good question, not an issue. These questions actually, this question actually guides us to another organelle, that is your Golgi apparatus, or we also call it as the Golgi body. Done? So Golgi apparatus or Golgi body. So I hope you have understood till here. Next, in the next video, I'll be talking about the Golgi apparatus and Golgi body in greater detail. Till then, stay tuned.